This is chapters 31 of 35 to 35 of 14 Ways to Die. Chapter 31. If Danny had his way, this would happen on Monday, but the first time I met Ross, I don't want anyone watching. He lives close enough for us to meet in town. Not all the victims shared the same zip code. Some were hundreds of miles away. That's why the Magpie Man wasn't called a serial killer at first, because 9 months after Mom was murdered, his second victim was found in Chester, and the first thing I thought was a copycat. Then he went to Glasgow for number 3, and the message board said it was a cult. They said it wasn't 2 people, it was hundreds, slowly adding to a body count that would never stop. I was terrified when I read that, imagining a group of murderers all over the country. When Margaret Mackenzie was murdered in London and they found the number 4 carved into her chest, the police appointed a special detective who was as useless as everyone else. And then Sharon Custis was killed a few miles from Doveton, and they finally blamed him for all 5. Maybe that's why Ross contacted me, because we share more than a story. I often think about the left behind. People like me whose lives are destroyed but who must keep living. The Magpie Man is responsible for a lot of those people, and I'm about to meet another one. If something huge happens on the days I'm off screen, I'm supposed to film it myself with the mini cams. But this is part of a bigger plan and I can't spoil it. I want to gather up the left behind, and Ross is my first chance. Because I'm not totally stupid. After what happened to Mom, I tell Hannah what I'm doing and she comes with me. Outside Starbucks, she says, "If it gets weird, just shout." Then she walks in, orders her coffee, and sits down. A few minutes later, I do the same, making sure she can see me. We're 20 minutes early. We're 20 minutes early. My coffee will be finished or cold by the time Ross arrives, but this is how to be careful. Every now and then, Hannah looks at me, then away. No smile, no wink, no sign we know each other. She's better at this kind of thing than Emily, who would make it blatantly obvious we were together. Hannah just sits reading, or pretending to read. She would make a great spy. I keep checking the time, and almost exactly when we agreed, Ross arrives, looking as nervous as I feel. He sees me and holds his hand up, then comes over without ordering. "Hi," he says. "Hi." "You want another?" He points at my empty cup when I shake my head, he walks to the counter. He seems normal, just a guy meeting a girl in a coffee shop to compare murder stories. It takes forever for him to get his coffee, and when it comes back, he sits across from me and sighs. "This is weird." I smile. "It is. Thank you for coming." "Thank you. I wasn't sure you would even reply to my message." He doesn't know I was banking on him, or at least people like him, getting in touch. Up close, you can see his hair is already going gray at the sides, and he keeps looking at me, then away. He rolls his wedding ring around his finger, only stopping when he drinks. In the moments when his hands aren't doing anything, they shake. "So," I say, What do you think of the show? Ross smiles and says, "I've only watched you. I'm not interested in the others." I feel a flicker of hope, because if he feels that way, maybe others do too. "When I finally found out you were doing it, I had to watch," he says. "I had to see what you were like." "And? The speech you made? I wasn't expecting that. It brought everything back. I want to help you." "No one can figure it out," I say. "The police can't stop him." Ross nods. "Tell me about it. You'd think there'd be a breakthrough by now. You think he would have slipped up, that someone would know something." "I used to think he was a monster," I say. "Not like a bad man, but an actual monster. That would explain why he was never caught. In movies, monsters aren't caught by detectives. They are caught by reluctant heroes. They bite off more than they can chew. When you're a kid and the Magpie Man keeps killing, your imagination eventually does the rest." "You weren't the only one," Ross says. "I've thought so many different things through the years. It's good to find someone who understands." "What happened to your mom?" I ask. "I already know. I've memorized every fact about every victim, but I need to hear him tell it, to make sure he is who he says he is." "I was 18, Ross says, his voice cracking slightly. "Mom asked me to go buy some milk, but I refused to. I was an asshole back then. She went out instead. She went out to make sure I had milk for my cereal the next morning. She never came back. I know what happened. Sharon Custis, Ross's mom, was on her way back when she was strangled, the number 5 carved into her belly. The milk her son refused to buy, lying next to her in the street. I was such a shit," Ross says. "Why didn't I just say yes? If he had, she might still be here. But it's not Ross's fault. He didn't kill anyone. He made a decision he can never take back, and that moment claws at him whenever he closes his eyes. I didn't send my mom into that alley, but I think about it every day. I wonder if I was the reason she took a shortcut, if she was so desperate to see me that she tried to shave 5 minutes off her journey. Ross has his head down, and I catch Hannah looking at me. She raises her eyebrows, and I quickly nod, letting her know everything is okay. I was a different person. I would reach out and touch Ross's arm, or say words designed to help. But I know it's useless. The things people do because they have to do something. The words they say because they can't stand the silence. For people like me and Ross, silence is better than bullshit. So I let him reminisce or regret until he looks up, shakes his head, and says, "I'll do anything to help you, Jessica. We can't let him get away with this." "That's good," I reply, "because there is something I'd like you to do." He stares at me, and when I see his eyes tear up, I almost stop, but I don't because I can't. "Will you find the others for me?" I ask. "The families of the other victims? Will you ask them to help?" Chapter 32. On Sunday, Danny calls and asks if we're all set for tomorrow. "Anything happen I should know about?" he asks. He knows I met Ross because he has access to my Facebook, so there's no point lying to him. "Did you film it?" he asks. When I say no, he says, "Jess, you have to start taking this seriously." I am taking it seriously. That's why I'm doing this. It's about as serious as it could get. "It doesn't seem that way," he says. "What if you only get 4 weeks? What if one of the others beats you in the ratings? What then?" "They won't," I say, angry that he can't see what this means to me. "My story is important." "Then prove it." We're quiet for a while, then Danny says, "We can't confuse the audience. They need to know who everyone is. What if Ross suddenly turns up on screen?" "He won't," I lie. "He doesn't want to be famous." I should be honest with Danny. I should tell him my plan comes in stages. First the introduction, then the search for clues, all tied into the hope that someone says something important. Then the left behind. The others like me, desperate for justice and ready to tell their own stories. It's easy to ignore one sad girl on the internet, but it's a lot harder to ignore an army of them. That's why I need Ross's help. I should let Danny sit in on my plan so he gets off my back, but I'm scared it won't work. I'm terrified I've overthought it or underestimated people's apathy, and in 4 weeks this will be finished before it really started. "Okay," I say. "From now on, I'll film everything." It's easier to say that than tell him about the things that might never happen. 33. Throughout the day, they fill the viewers in by putting my messages on screen so they know who Ross is and what we said to each other online. They don't know what we said face to face. Not yet. I told him not to send me any more messages and gave him Dad's cell phone number if he needed to get in touch. Dad doesn't use it anymore. When he does have to call someone, he uses the house phone, but mostly it's the other way around. Nan calling to check in, or one of Dad's old friends inviting him out, even though they already know the answer. I'm scared that eventually, even his best buddies will give up trying to get him back to the real world. But they haven't yet, and I think Hannah and Emily would be the same if it was me. I found Dad's phone stuffed in the junk drawer, wrapped in a charger cord that thankfully still works. I'm relieved it wasn't hidden in the attic, buried in the piles we pull out every couple of years, or in the one special box Dad asked me not to touch. So now I have a second phone, one the producers don't know about. I feel guilty not telling Danny, but I have to be smart. With the girls knowing not to send me anything except small talk messages, I think I'm safe. That's the first mistake, because you never are. Not really. The text is from an unknown number, and the moment I click on it, the studio sees it too. "I'll kill you like I killed your mother." If you're watching me, you know exactly what I just read, because they will post it instantly. If you're not, it will be the headline in my recap. I feel sick, and Emily can see something's wrong. "You okay, Jess?" she asks, but I can't speak. She leads me to a seat, and I show her my phone. "Shit," she says, passing it to Hannah. "Who sent you this?" Hannah asks. I shake my head and say, "Unknown number." They look at me, expecting more, but I want to throw up. Since the show started, there have been weirdos in that stupid Magpie Man Twitter account, but nothing like this. "They have my number," I say. "It must be someone I know." I look around the school at all the strangers we call friends just long enough to get through the day. We swap our numbers with people we hardly speak to, and every couple of years we delete names we don't recognize anymore. It could be any of them, because if they don't have it, they can find someone who does. There are plenty of people at school who will find this funny, and if I had to point a finger, it would be at the 10th grade mean girls. They leave us alone because we're older than them, but they make up for it with their sneers. Like everyone, they whisper when I pass, but their whispers are louder. They don't try to hide their bitchiness. They make it clear what they think of my show, my reasons, my life. Emily says they are jealous, although I doubt it. My phone pings again. You will be number 14. You need to show the police, Emily says. This isn't funny. She's right, about both. But the police couldn't solve the crime when they had a dead body, so what will they be able to do with a couple of texts? As it turns out, I don't need to call the police. They're waiting for me when I get home. Chapter 34. When I open the front door, a man walks towards me, but it's not my dad. Next to him, a woman stands and smiles. Jessica, she says, we're here about the texts. Dad is sitting in his chair with a face like thunder. I imagine what they've told him, and wonder if this is where he'll draw the line. We know you received a threatening message today, the policewoman says. Excuse me. And I wonder if this is how they solve crimes these days, watching online videos and waiting for something horrible to happen. I nod and sit on the sofa. Behind me, Danny is whispering to Michael, and I feel the camera zoom in on my face. The policeman looks at them. This is a private matter. Danny shrugs and says, It's Monday. You only know about it because of them, I tell the officers. They have to stay. The policeman looks annoyed but doesn't argue. The woman does all the talking then. Do you have any idea who might have sent them? She asks. I shake my head, wondering what this will do to my ratings. Could it have been the man you met on Saturday? Ross? How? I look at Danny, who shrugs again, and I realize the police are paying attention, that the show is doing its job. It's not him, I say. He doesn't have my number. But what if it is? What if I'm not as good at spotting horrific people as I thought? Someone at school, then? Do you have any? She lets me fill in the blanks. Enemies, I say. No, I don't think so. We are taking this very seriously, the policewoman says. A threat has been made against your life. Has anything else strange happened recently? You mean apart from me agreeing to be filmed and conducting police interviews in front of the whole world? No, I say. She hands me a card. Her name is Lorraine. If you think of anything, please call me. I nod, and they leave without saying goodbye to my father. Whatever happened when it was just the three of them, he clearly didn't make a good impression. When they are gone, I go back to the living room, hoping to explain before Dad comes out fighting, but he's standing up, pointing for me to sit. It's nothing to worry about, I tell him. I've waited a long time for my dad to laugh again, but not like this. A single ha is followed by a shake of the head. Then he points again until I'm sitting, and it feels strange not looking down at him. He starts pacing the room, and I wonder if I've pissed my dad off so much that he's finally going to shout over his grief. A part of me hopes I have, but when he talks, it's slow and quiet. I agreed to this, he says, because you said it was for your mother. It is. Someone threatened you. Is that what you wanted? It's a joke. It's probably someone at school. And if it's not, Dad's top lip twitches and he won't look me in the eye. Please don't stop me from doing this, I say. I'm onto something. I know I am. I just need time. Dad sits in his chair and I hope his fight has faded away. We limit our anger to short bursts or risk crying all evening. But he doesn't give in. He reaches for my hand, drawing circles in my palm like he did when I was a kid, and says, Someone threatened my daughter today. What do you expect me to do? I lost her dress. I won't lose you as well. You're not going to, I say, my heart breaking for him like it has 1,000 times since Mom died. We sit in silence until Dad says, I gave it a chance. We're nearly halfway through the 4 weeks. Can I at least have that? Please, Dad, I'll be careful. He may do it in his own way, but he protects me, and that will never change. Suddenly, he stares over my shoulder at Michael filming everything and Danny standing by his side. Then he looks around our living room, a room that has barely changed in 10 years except for the growing collection of Mom's photos that fill every surface. I don't want this for you, Dad says. Then, so quietly only I can hear, 2 more weeks, but if the police come back here, it's over. 35. Are you okay? Danny asks. He's not supposed to speak on camera unless it's absolutely necessary. I guess this is one of those times. I can see the worry in his face. I nod and he says, You're right, it's someone fooling around. There's more than one way to go viral, and if my heartfelt introduction didn't do it, if my story still feels like old news, maybe the threat of something worse will actually help. When his camera is turned off, just before they leave, Michael says, "I got some great footage of you and your dad." That's the difference between him and Danny. Michael still treats me like a prop. "Don't let them win," Danny whispers. "Whoever they are, they want a reaction. Just like you," I say. I meant it as a joke, but he doesn't laugh. "We'll see you next week, Jess, and if you get any more messages, call the police." I will. When they've gone, I go straight upstairs to my room and stare at the camera on the wall. At midnight, I put a sock over it, just in case, then lie in bed thinking about who might have sent the text. It probably is some idiot at school trying to be funny. After all, the real Magpie Man didn't text his victims first. But people change. What if he really is watching?